The sun had barely risen when Ngozi was already in the kitchen, or what she called the kitchen, a small corner with a rusty kerosene stove and a pot that had seen better days. She looked down at the empty pot, wiped her damp hands on her wrapper, and tried not to cry. Beside her, Ifunanya, her 6-year-old daughter, sat on the floor, hugging her knees, her stomach growling so loudly it seemed to shake the walls. "Mama, I'm hungry," Ifunanya whispered, her voice shaking. Ngozi tried to smile. "I know, my dear. Soon, soon." But she could feel the lie weighing on her chest. Soon meant nothing. The little food they had saved from yesterday had been finished long ago, and there was no money to buy more. Chinedu, her husband, entered the room with his helmet in one hand, soaked from the morning rain. He was a tall man, thin from months of hunger, and his face looked older than his 32 years. His okada bike, the family's only source of income, sat outside, its engine cold and tired, much like Chinedu himself. "Any passengers today?" Ngozi asked quietly, her voice betraying the small hope she still carried. Chinedu shook his head, dropping the helmet. "None, not even small jobs. Fuel finished. People prefer the young ones with new bikes." He rubbed his eyes. Ifunanya reached for him, her small hands touching his wet sleeve. "Papa, food?" Ifunanya asked. Chinedu knelt beside her, pressing his forehead to her hair. "Soon, my child, Papa will find something." But he did not know what something would be. Outside, the streets of Ajegule were already bustling. Market women with baskets balanced on their heads shouted. Car horns blared, and okada riders fought for passengers. Chinedu pulled on his wet jacket and walked to his bike. The engine coughed like an old man waking from a nap, and he patted it softly. "Please, today," he whispered. He joined the cluster of riders, shouting destinations to passing passengers. He rode from one street to another, from Ujolegba to Mile 2, hoping someone, anyone would pay him enough to buy food for his family. But the day was harsh. People waved at him and walked away, or sometimes they laughed at the sight of his old bike. By midday, sweat ran down his back, and his stomach twisted painfully. At a bus stop near a large supermarket, he saw a well-dressed man waving. His heart leapt. "Oga, where to?" Chinedu asked, hope in his voice. "Lekki Phase 2, the man replied, adjusting his expensive watch. The ride was long and quiet. The man spoke loudly on his phone about contracts and meetings, about money Chinedu could not imagine. Chinedu gritted his teeth as the fuel meter in his head ticked closer to empty. At the estate gate, the man got down. "I'll go get cash," he said. "Wait here." Chinedu waited, the rain soaking him further. 5 minutes passed. 10. No one returned. Finally, a security man approached. "Oga, who you dey wait for?" "The man will enter now," Chinedu replied. "Which man?" the guard asked, frowning. "Nobody enter." The rain poured, the day grew hotter under the wet clouds, and Chinedu's hope sank. He had spent the last bit of money he had on fuel. The ride back was long, silent, and heavy. By the time he returned to his small home, Ngozi was kneeling near the empty pot, stroking Ifunanya's hair. Chinedu's heart ached at the sight. Hunger was not just empty stomachs. It was fear, shame, and helplessness. He dropped the helmet and pressed his face to his hands. "We will find something," he whispered, though he did not know how. The morning had started grey, but by 9, the rain had softened. Streets of Ajegule glistened with puddles, people moving carefully to avoid them. Chinedu mounted his bike again, determined. Ngozi watched him go, her lips pressed together. She wanted to speak, to warn him, but hunger had made words useless. On the road, Chinedu's stomach twisted with every passing hour. He waved at people, shouted destinations. Every small job he found barely covered fuel. By noon, Sweat mixed with the rain that was still falling in gentle drizzle. Hunger was no longer physical. It had invaded his thoughts. Near a busy bus stop, Chinedu picked up a woman going to the bank. She handed him a small note and ran off without waiting. Chinedu shook his head. Small money. It would not even buy 2 cups of rice. He prepared to leave when he noticed something on the back seat. A black nylon bag. Heavy. He looked around. Nobody. His heart began to race. Carefully, he opened the bag. Money. Thick bundles. Notes stacked neatly. Chinedu's hands shook. He closed the bag slowly, looked around again. Rain was still falling, but he did not feel it. This is enough to pay rent. Enough to buy food for Ngozi and Ifunanya. Enough to send Ifunanya to school. He could almost see the rice steaming on the stove, chicken frying, and the smell of pepper soup filling the room. Then the other voice came, loud and sharp. It is not yours. Chinedu's stomach twisted. Hunger screamed at him. Need screamed louder, but conscience screamed even more. He held the bag tight, mind spinning. If you take it, you feed your family today. If you return it, you keep your soul intact. He stayed on the bike, soaked from rain, trapped between 2 impossible choices. Chinedu returned home with the bag hidden under his jacket. Ngozi was at the window, peering down the street for him. Ifunanya had been fidgeting and crying intermittently. "Papa?" Ifunanya asked as he entered. Chinedu did not answer immediately. He placed the bag on the floor carefully, kneeling beside his daughter. Ngozi gasped. "Chinedu, is that money?" Chinedu nodded. "I found it on the road." Ifunanya's eyes widened. "We can eat now?" Chinedu looked at her thin legs, sunken cheeks, the small ribs pressing against her dress. He swallowed hard. Ngozi sat down beside him, shaking. "This could solve everything," she whispered. Chinedu shook his head. "It's not ours, Ngozi. What if the owner is suffering like us?" Ngozi's hand trembled. "What if no one ever comes for it? What if we can finally—" Chinedu pressed his forehead to his hands. "One lie leads to another. My father always said, a man may starve, but stealing poisons his soul." Outside, the rain softened. Children ran through puddles. Women sold akara and fried yam. Life continued, indifferent to hunger or morality. Chinedu spent hours pacing, thinking of Ifunanya's future, of Ngozi's tired eyes, of all the months of shame and humiliation. Yet the decision was clear. He could not take the money, not even a little. "Tomorrow," he said quietly to Ngozi, "I will return it." Ngozi nodded, tears running down her face. "I will pray," she whispered. Chinedu slept little that night, not because of hunger, but because the weight of right and wrong pressed on him, heavier than the empty stomach. The morning sun was bright over Ajegule. Chinedu walked to the police station with the bag, helmet in hand, heart pounding. People stared. Some thought he had lost his mind, others were curious. Inside, he explained carefully to the officers how he had found the bag. The money was counted. Thick bundles, thousands of naira. The officers exchanged glances. "Are you sure you don't want a reward?" one asked. Chinedu shook his head. "I just want to go home." Hours passed. The police were verifying the owner's details when a man arrived, sweating, clearly panicked. He dropped to his knees upon seeing Chinedu. "My money! I thought I lost it forever," he cried. "This was my business capital. My wife lost it on her way to the bank and lost it. My children would go hungry." He held Chinedu's hands. "Thank you, thank you." Chinedu felt a weight lift from his chest. But even more, he felt peace. The kind of peace that comes from doing right when the world pressures you to do wrong. The man insisted on rewarding Chinedu, handing him a small envelope.
He refused initially, but the man pressed him. Chinedu returned home carrying the envelope, some rice and chicken, enough to feed Ngozi and the Funanya for a week. Ngozi opened the door and screamed in joy. Ifunanya jumped up, laughing and clapping her hands. They ate together that morning, the aroma of pepper soup filling the small room. Chinedu watched them eat and realized something profound. Honesty had not starved him, it had fed his soul. Later, as he sat outside, the sun warming his damp clothes, he watched other fathers struggling, other children hungry, and he understood the truth in his father's words. Poverty is not a sin, but compromise is. Hunger may bend a man, but integrity keeps him standing tall.